Yo, it's Max, and today we're not just going to talk about food, we're going to crack it open like a can of stew from the 90s and see what's really inside. Because the entire food industry is basically one giant matrix, where instead of a red and blue pill, you're offered a fitness bar and an organic smoothie. And both options, spoiler alert, lead to the same thing: the marketer's wallet. So buckle up, we're about to break down your eating habits, beliefs, and possibly even childhood traumas related to semolina porridge. Let's go, you're in for 50 Shades of Food Disappointment. Fact 1. Let's start with the trendiest: detox. Those green juices that look like swamp sludge, which, according to Instagram influencers, are supposed to cleanse you of waste, toxins, and apparently sins from past lives. Sounds cool, right? You sip on celery water and you're a new person. Well, the whole detox industry is possibly the most brazen and expensive scam after personal development courses. Your body already comes with a top-notch, pre-installed purification system. It's called the liver and kidneys. These guys work 24/7, without weekends or lunch breaks, filtering everything you throw into yourself. Buying detox smoothies is like hiring a cleaning service for a self-cleaning oven. Pointless and expensive. All those toxins that they claim to be getting rid of are just an abstract term to sell you a bottle of water with charcoal for 1,000 rubles. Your body handles it just fine, and if it doesn't, you don't need a smoothie, you need a doctor. Fact 2. Brown sugar. Oh, that symbol of elitism in cafes. You ask for it, feeling like a healthy lifestyle aficionado, while others dump vulgar white poison into their lattes. This is going to hurt. Brown sugar is essentially the same as white sugar, just with a little masquerade. It's either slightly less refined, leaving some molasses, which is cane syrup, or, funnier still, just color it with the same molasses. Yes, Carl, they color it. All its benefits in the form of microelements, potassium, calcium, are so insignificant that, which, as you understand, negates all its supposed benefits. It's like buying a Lada, repainting it red, and claiming it now drives like a Ferrari. No, it doesn't. You're just paying more for the color. Fact 3. The label organic. The holy grail of supermarkets. It seems that behind this word lies an idyllic world. Cows grazing in alpine meadows, and tomatoes ripening to the sound of birds, unaware of chemicals. Reality, as usual, is more cynical. Organic doesn't mean pesticide-free. It means free from synthetic pesticides. Farmers working under organic standards use their approved pesticides. They're just of natural origin. For example, pyrethrins from chamomile or copper sulfate. Sounds harmless, right? Here are just some of those natural pesticides that need to be used, and copper sulfate, by the way, is toxic to soil and aquatic organisms. So it is not a world without chemistry, but simply a world with a different chemistry approved by a special committee. Is this more beneficial? The question remains open and highly debatable, but it is definitely more expensive. Fact 4. Sea or Himalayan pink salt. Another product that mimics healthy eating. We are told about the 84 unique minerals in Himalayan salt and the incredible benefits of sea salt that is evaporated under the sun. Sounds poetic. Now for the dry math. Regular table salt is about 97 to 99% sodium chloride, and trendy pink salt, drumroll, is 95 to 90. To gain any benefit from them, you would have to consume such a quantity of salt that it would be fatal. The pink color is due to iron oxide, in simple terms, rust. Yes, you are paying 10 times more for beautifully colored salt with a microdose of rust. You might as well lick an old nail. Fact 5. Fat-free products. Remember that boom from the noughties? Fat-free yogurt, cottage cheese, kefir? It seemed like the solution to all problems. Eat as much as you want and not gain weight. But there is a devilish trick. When fat is removed from a product, it loses not only calories, it loses taste and texture. It becomes, well, nothing. A bland, watery substance. And what do producers do to sell this? Right. They add sugar, starch, thickeners, and flavorings. As a result, you get a product with zero fat, but with a mountain of carbohydrates. Such diet yogurt causes a sharp spike in blood sugar, after which you will soon want to eat again. This creates a vicious cycle. You think you are eating healthy, but in reality, you are just exchanging fat for sugar, which is not always better for your figure and health, to say the least. This is a classic example of how marketing has triumphed over common sense. Fact 6. The 8 glasses of water a day rule. Moms, trainers, health magazines. Drink 2 liters and happiness will be yours. Your skin will be like a baby's, and your metabolism will be like that of a cheetah. But no one ever really explained where that particular number came from. It is essentially pulled out of thin air. There is no universal norm for everyone. Your water needs depend on a bunch of factors. Weight, age, activity level, the climate you live in. A person working in an office in Murmansk and a construction worker in Sochi are, well, 2 different consumers of water. Moreover, we get a lot of fluid from food, from soups, vegetables, fruits. A cucumber or watermelon, for example, is nearly all water. So the idea of forcing yourself to drink an 8th glass when you don't want to anymore is absurd. Part 3 of 16. The best indicator is your own feeling of thirst. Your body, is not foolish. It will signal when it needs something. Fact 7. Fresh vegetables are always healthier than frozen ones. Sounds logical, right? Here's a fresh pepper straight from the garden. And here's its frozen counterpart, sad and covered in frost. The choice seems obvious, but not so fast. Let's trace the journey of that fresh vegetable to your table. It was picked, possibly slightly underripe, to make the trip. Then it was transported in a truck, stored in a warehouse, and finally placed on a store shelf. During all this time, exposure to light and oxygen causes it to lose a significant... Vegetables for freezing are harvested at their peak ripeness, when their concentration of nutrients is at its maximum, and subjected to shock freezing within just a few hours. This process preserves almost all the vitamins and minerals. As a result, it may turn out that a bag of frozen green beans contains more vitamins than its fresh friend, which traveled for a... Microwaves kill all the nutrients in food. This age-old myth still makes some people eye this kitchen gadget with suspicion. They say that those terrible waves destroy vitamins and turn food into a dead, useless mass. Well, that's nonsense. Any thermal processing, boiling, frying, baking, destroys certain nutrients to varying degrees, especially water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C and the B vitamins. The irony is that the longer and at higher temperatures you cook, the greater the nutrient loss. Microwaves cook food very quickly and generally use less water. So, paradoxically, reheating in a microwave retains even more vitamins than, for example, prolonged boiling. Therefore, fear of microwaves is just a food phobia. A gluten-free diet is beneficial for everyone. Gluten has become something of a dietary demon in recent years, the ultimate villain. Store shelves are overflowing with gluten-free bread, cookies, and pasta. And people buy these products thinking they are making a healthy choice. Let's clarify. Gluten is just a protein found in wheat, rye, and barley. It is harmful, yes, but only to a very small percentage of people with celiac disease or specific intolerance. For the other 99% of people, it is absolutely harmless. Moreover, excluding it from your diet can be detrimental. Whole grain products containing gluten are an important source of fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Their gluten-free counterparts are often just empty products made from refined rice or cornstarch, with added sugars and fats to somewhat mimic the taste. In other words, you're trading healthy whole grain bread for a tasteless bun made of pure starch. Great move. Fact 10. Don't eat at night. The logic is simple. At night, we don't move, and everything we eat goes directly to fat storage. It sounds convincing, but our body isn't a blast furnace that shuts down according to a schedule. What matters is their total daily balance. If you consumed fewer calories than you burned in a day, you won't gain weight, even if you eat your chicken breast at 11 at night. The problem with nighttime snacking lies elsewhere. People rarely eat broccoli at night. Usually, the hand reaches for chips, cookies, or ice cream. Calorie bomb. And those calories become excessive, exceeding your daily norm. So it's not about the time on the clock, but about what and how much you eat. A calorie eaten at night weighs exactly the same as a calorie eaten in the morning. Fact 11. Now let's talk about the main deception of fitness clubs. No, it's not the annual membership you use 3 times. It's fitness bars. This thing wrapped in packaging with images of abs and flying grains. It looks like a ticket to the world of health. You just burned 300 calories on the treadmill and, feeling accomplished, eat this reward. Now let's read the ingredients. Sugar is at the top of the list, or syrup, or glucose-fructose syrup. In other words, essentially sugar in different states, plus a bit of oatmeal for decency, drenched in palm oil and chocolate coating. This is not a healthy snack. It's a candy that went to the gym, put on a tracksuit, and is trying to pass itself off as an athlete. You just worked hard to burn calories, only to immediately shove them back in the form of a disguised Snickers. Manufacturers simply took regular confectionery, added the word protein, and tripled the price. Oh yes, the flavor enhancer that frightens children and impressionable adults. Allegedly, it's a chemical, a poison that causes headaches and turns your brain into jelly. This fear even has a name: Chinese restaurant syndrome. So here's the trick. Glutamate is simply the sodium salt of glutamic acid. And glutamic acid is an amino acid that is found everywhere. In meat, in fish, in mushrooms, in Parmesan cheese, in ripe tomatoes. This is the very natural taste of umami, the 5th taste, the one that makes food so rich and flavorful. The glutamate sprinkled on chips is chemically no different from the glutamate in your favorite cheese. To fear it is like fearing water, because its formula, H2O, sounds too chemical. And Chinese restaurant syndrome has been debunked by a slew of studies. It's just that after a greasy, salty, and hearty meal, some people start to feel unwell. But blaming the mysterious glutamate is much easier than admitting that you simply overindulged. We are so used to thinking this way. In the morning, a glass of orange juice, and a vitamin boost for the whole day. Sounds perfect, but there's a nuance that ruins everything. Its name is fiber. When you eat an orange whole, its fiber slows the absorption of sugar, fructose. Sugar enters the bloodstream smoothly, preventing sharp spikes. But when you squeeze juice, you essentially throw away the most beneficial part, that very fiber. What's left? Correct. Water with dissolved sugar in it and a small amount of vitamins. A glass of orange juice contains the sugar from 3 or 4 oranges, hitting your pancreas almost as quickly as a glass of Coca-Cola. You get a calorie bomb without feeling full. So drinking fresh juice is like reading a summary of War and Peace. You might grasp the plot, but the essence and depth of the work, you've thrown in the trash. Fact 14. Negative calorie foods. The main character of this tale is celery. The legend says that chewing and digesting it takes more calories than you get from it. In other words, you eat and lose weight. A dream! But, like any dream, it crashes against the harsh reality of math. Yes, energy is indeed spent on digestion. A stalk of celery has about 10 calories. You might burn, well, maybe 1 or 2 calories digesting it. In the end, you are still ahead by 8. The idea of negative calories is like trying to get rich by finding pennies on the street. Theoretically, your capital grows, but practically, it's so insignificant that it makes no sense. Celery is good, but not because it burns fat. Rather, because it is low-calorie and contains fiber. That's all. Fact 15. Egg yolks raise cholesterol. This myth is so old that dinosaurs probably told it to each other. Because of it, our grandmothers and mothers made omelets from egg whites only, throwing away the most valuable part. But here's the surprise. The cholesterol we eat has very little effect on our blood cholesterol levels. Our body, primarily the liver, produces saturated and especially trans fats, which are abundant in fast food, margarine, and industrial baked goods, have a much stronger effect on the level of bad cholesterol in the blood. So demonizing the egg yolk is like shooting sparrows while a flock of pterodactyls in the form of trans fats flies nearby. The yolk, in addition to cholesterol, contains a bunch of vitamins and beneficial fatty acids. So eat whole eggs and don't listen to myths from the past. Fact 16. Almond milk is a healthy substitute for cow's milk. It sounds logical. After all, it's nuts, and nuts are good for you. But let's see what almond milk really is. It's essentially water that a few nuts have bathed in. In a standard package of almond milk, the almond content is about 2%. Everything else is water, thickeners, emulsifiers, and often sugar or sweeteners. It contains almost no protein, unlike cow's milk. There is also no calcium. It's artificially added to compete with the original in any way. Essentially, you are buying designer, extremely expensive water with a slight nutty flavor and a bunch of additives. This is not bad if you simply like the taste. But to call it a full-fledged substitute for milk in terms of nutritional value is, to put it mildly, an exaggeration. It's like calling a bicycle an eco-friendly car. Sports drinks are needed after every workout. Have you seen those bodybuilders at the gym drinking some toxic blue or orange liquid? Those are isotonic drinks. Marketers assure us that during a workout, we lose not only water through sweat, but also important electrolytes, sodium and potassium. And these drinks supposedly replenish everything. This is true, but it applies to professional marathon runners who are running 40 kilometers in the heat, or to football. In other words, for those experiencing extreme multi-hour loads. If your workout consists of an hour in an air-conditioned gym, you're not losing enough electrolytes to urgently need replenishing. Regular water is sufficient for you. An isotonic drink for you is just sweetened water. You are paying for sugar and colorings that you absolutely don't need. It's like calling a fire truck to water your cactus. You can do it, of course, but it's completely meaningless and excessive. Fact 18. Dark chocolate is a superfood. Oh, how we love this myth. It justifies our craving for sweets. We're told about antioxidants, but there's one gigantic but. To obtain these benefits, you need chocolate with a cocoa content of 70% or higher. And let's be honest, that chocolate is bitter, like life without a paycheck. Most people, however, eat chocolate labeled as dark that has a cocoa content of 50 to 60%, where sugar is still, and the amount of antioxidants there is so minimal that the benefits are completely overshadowed by the harm from sugar. This is pure self-deception. You're eating a sugary bar with a small addition of healthy cocoa and thinking you're improving your health. It's like smoking cigarettes with a vitamin filter. A glass of red wine a day is good for the heart. The French paradox, resveratrol, all that jazz. It sounds like the perfect recipe, enjoyable and healthy. But alas, we've been deceived again. First, the amount of that very resveratrol in one glass of wine is minuscule. To receive a therapeutic dose, as in the studies, you would have. Secondly, the so-called French paradox may be explained not by wine, but by an entire lifestyle. Higher quality foods, a Mediterranean diet, and more physical activity. Wine is just a contributing factor. All the major recent studies show that there is no safe dose of alcohol. Any amount is a burden on the liver and a risk to the body. So the idea of treating oneself with wine is simply a nice and convenient excuse for a bad habit. Fact 20. The 5-second rule. Oh, this sacred knowledge passed down from generation to generation. Food drops on the floor? Quickly pick it up before the germs have time to reach it. If it hasn't been 5 seconds, it's considered clean. We all believed this. But scientists, those killjoys, decided to check it all out. They found that bacteria don't use a stopwatch. The transfer of microbes from the surface to the food occurs almost instantaneously, in a fraction of a second. Of course, the longer the food sits, the more bacteria will crawl onto it. And yes, fewer will transfer from a dry cracker on a clean laminate than from a piece of wet sausage. So the 5-second rule is not a scientific law, but rather a psychological trick, a piece of folk wisdom that allows us to eat a dropped sandwich with a clear conscience. Convincing. Well, self-suggestion is also a great thing. Fact 21. Products labeled 0% fat. Remember how in the 90s and early 2000s, fat was declared the #1 enemy of humanity? It was blamed for everything. Excess weight, heart diseases, and the bad weather outside. The food industry eagerly jumped on this trend, flooding the shelves with fat-free versions of everything imaginable. But here's the trick. When you remove fat from a product, you remove flavor. The food becomes flat and uninteresting, like a black and white television. To make you buy and eat these healthy products, manufacturers made a deal with the devil. They started stuffing these products with sugar, syrups, and starch. As a result, humanity has massively switched from the fat needle to the sugar needle, which, as we now know, led to an epidemic of obesity and diabetes. This was one of the largest and most failed marketing campaigns in the history of nutrition. We were so afraid of fat that we didn't notice how we were hooked on something worse. Fact 22. Carbohydrates are evil. The modern version of witch hunts. Only now they are not burning women at the stake, but toasting bread in toasters. Keto diets, low-carb meal plans, all scream that carbohydrates make us fat and sick. But sorry, that's a wild oversimplification. It's like saying that there's a beaten-up Copica without brakes, and there's a reliable family minivan. The same goes for carbohydrates. There are simple carbohydrates, sugar, white flour, sweets. That's the Copica. They provide a sharp burst of energy and take it away just as quickly, leaving you hungry. Then there are complex carbohydrates, whole grains, vegetables, legumes. That's your minivan. They are digested slowly, provide a long-lasting feeling of fullness, and are full of fiber. Demonizing all carbohydrates means eliminating a huge portion of healthy and necessary foods from the diet. This is not a fight for health. It is a battle against windmills, and a very foolish one at that. Fact 23. Superfoods. Goji berries, chia seeds, quinoa, spirulina. It sounds like an incantation from another universe, and they cost as if they are delivered to Earth by a spaceship. Marketers present them as a panacea, a concentrate of benefits that will make you eternally young and healthy. But let's be honest, superfood is not a scientific term. It is a marketing gimmick. Yes, these products are healthy, but they are not 10 times healthier than regular food, despite being 10 times more expensive. Our native buckwheat is on par with trendy quinoa in terms of amino acid composition. Regular beets or cabbage are a treasure trove of vitamins and antioxidants, surpassing goji berries. And flax seeds will give your chia seeds 100 points advantage in omega-3 content. Buying superfoods is like taking a business-class taxi when there's a convenient and cheap bus nearby. You can do it if you have money to burn, but you will get to the same place. Fact 24. Eating at night slows down metabolism. This is in addition to the myth about not eating after 6. Allegedly, our metabolism goes to sleep at night, just like we do. And so, you eat a cutlet, and it lies in your stomach like a dead weight until morning, because the metabolism, you see, set the alarm for 7 o'clock. This is complete nonsense. Our body is not an office that locks up for the night. It works around the clock. Crucial recovery and cell division processes occur at night, and all of this requires energy. Your metabolism is always working. The basic metabolic rate at rest, whether during the day or at night, is roughly the same. So, calories consumed at night are burned just like those eaten during the day. The problem, I repeat, is not the time, but rather that nighttime eating is almost always an excess that you won't expend simply because you are already asleep. Fact 25. Natural syrups and honey are healthier than sugar. Oh, this aesthetic of a healthy lifestyle. Drizzling your morning porridge not with vulgar white sugar, but with golden maple syrup or fragrance. It seems that nature itself blesses this meal. But if you strip these products of their marketing gloss and look at their chemical composition, the magic disappears. Regular sugar, sucrose, is a molecule made of glucose and fructose, and agave syrup or honey is, ta-da, a mixture of the same glucose and fructose, just in free form. For your body, the difference is minimal. It sees sugar and reacts to it almost the same way. Yes, honey contains microscopic doses of vitamins and antibacterial substances, and the harm from that amount of sugar would be immeasurably greater. So, it's just sugar in a pretty hipster package. Fact 26. You need to eat often and in small portions to boost metabolism. This theory sounds very logical. It's like you're constantly tossing little logs into the metabolic fire, but physiology is a stubborn thing. There is a so-called thermic effect of food, the energy the body spends on digestion. And this effect depends on the total amount eaten, not on the frequency. Whether you consume your 2,000 calories in 3 meals or 6, the body will expend the same amount of energy to digest them. There's no difference for metabolism whatsoever. Not at all. This myth is convenient for those who find it psychologically difficult to tolerate hunger. But there's no metabolic magic in frequent meals. It's just one way to organize your diet, no better or worse than others. Fact 27. Diet soda helps you lose 0 calories, sweet taste. It seems to be the perfect invention, a loophole in the system. You drink something sweet, but don't gain weight. But there are a few buts. First of all, our brain is a complex thing. When it perceives a sweet taste, it expects an influx of... This deception can confuse the appetite regulation system. Some studies show that after artificial sweeteners, people are even more drawn to real sugar. Secondly, there are hypotheses that these substances may negatively affect gut microbiota. But the main point is the psychological trap. After drinking a 0 soda, you feel like you've saved calories and are more likely to allow yourself an extra slice of pizza or dessert. So diet soda is not a solution to the problem, but often just its disguise. Fact 28. The anabolic window. The sacred 30... This myth has spawned an entire industry of protein shakers that bodybuilders drink right in the locker room, fearing they'll miss the window. In reality, this window is not a small opening that slams shut after half an hour, but rather a set of gigantic gates that remain open for several hours or even days after a workout. Protein synthesis is elevated for quite a long time. What's far more important is not what you eat in those mythical 30 minutes, but how much protein you get overall throughout the day. There's no point in panicking and rushing for a shaker. You can calmly make it home and have a proper, hearty dinner. Your muscles aren't going anywhere. You shouldn't heat food in plastic containers. This fear runs deep. It seems that under the influence of microwaves, some terrible toxins, bisphenols, and phthalates are leaching from the plastic into your... And there is some truth to this, but only if you are using the wrong type of plastic. Not all plastic containers are meant for reheating. However, there has long been special, heat-resistant, food-grade plastic that is absolutely safe to use in the microwave. It has a special marking, a symbol with waves or the inscription, "Microwave Safe." Such plastic has passed, so it's not a problem of the plastic itself, but rather a matter of proper usage. It's like complaining about a hammer that you tried to use to screw in a nail. The tool just needs to be used for its intended purpose. Fact 30. All E numbers are harmful chemicals. The letter E on a food package acts as a red flag for many, conjuring up images of terrible powders, but in reality, E is just a coding system for food additives, adopted in Europe to avoid writing long chemical names on labels. And behind these codes lies a variety of substances. For example, E300 is ascorbic acid, or regular vitamin C. E101 is riboflavin, vitamin B2. E160A is carotene, like that found in carrots. E330 is citric acid. Of course, among the E numbers, but to broadly fear all additives with the letter E is a sign of chemophobia, or fear of chemistry. After all, our whole life, and we ourselves, are essentially one continuous chemistry. This is one of those facts that sounds so scientific that it's easy to believe. Caffeine is a diuretic, meaning it promotes urination. It's logical to assume that if you drink coffee, you lose more fluid than you gain. But this logic only works in a vacuum. Reality, as always, is more complex. Yes, caffeine has a slight diuretic effect, but this effect is so mild that it is easily compensated for by the volume of the liquid you consume with the coffee. A cup of coffee is comprised of 98% water. Numerous studies have shown that moderate coffee consumption, up to 3 or 4 cups a day, affects the body's water balance much like plain water does. You don't become dehydrated. This myth is relevant only if you decide to consume caffeine in pill form in massive doses, taken with a sip of water. And your morning cup of cappuccino is primarily a liquid. Fact 32. Pink meat in chicken means it is undercooked and dangerous. How many times have we suspectingly poked at a chicken drumstick near the bone, noticing a pinkish hue? The word salmonella and panic about food poisoning immediately come to mind. But the pink color does not always mean it's raw. The main indicator of meat doneness is its internal temperature. For chicken, it should be no less than 74 degrees Celsius. If this temperature is reached, all bacteria are guaranteed to be dead. And the pink color can remain for several reasons. For instance, due to myoglobin, a protein in the muscles that can react with gases. This is especially common in young chickens, whose bones have not yet completely hardened, allowing the bone marrow to color the adjacent meat. So the best friend of a paranoid person in the kitchen is not color, but a culinary thermometer. Fact 33. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Eat breakfast yourself, share lunch with a friend, and give dinner to an enemy. This proverb has ingrained itself in our subconscious. We are told that a hearty breakfast kickstarts metabolism and provides energy for the entire day. This is not entirely a lie, but a strong exaggeration. There's no metabolic magic in the morning meal. What matters for the body is the overall balance of calories and nutrients over the course of the day. The importance of breakfast is more psychological and behavioral. People who regularly eat breakfast tend to lead healthier lifestyles on average. They binge less, but if you're not hungry in the morning and feel more comfortable starting to eat at noon, nothing terrible will happen to your metabolism. The idea that skipping breakfast automatically leads to weight gain is a myth, which, by the way, was actively promoted by cereal and granola manufacturers. Just business, nothing personal. Fact 34. You should eat only when you feel hungry. Intuitive eating, a trendy concept. Listen to your body, it won't deceive you. It sounds very beautiful and harmonious, but it only works for people with healthy eating habits and without eating disorders. Most of us have long lost track of our, quote, hunger sensor. We eat not because we're hungry, but because we're bored, sad, for companionship, because it smells good, or we confuse physical hunger with emotional hunger. Real hunger grows gradually, while emotional hunger strikes suddenly and craves something specific, usually sweet or fatty. So blindly trusting your wants is a direct path to overeating. Sometimes you need to use your head instead of intuition and eat on a schedule, even if it seems like I didn't really want it. Fact 35. Sushi and rolls are diet food. Rice, fish, what could be healthier? This illusion leads many to order sets, thinking they're eating healthily. Let's break it down. Classic sushi, where a piece of fish sits on a lump of rice, is acceptable. But what we eat as rolls is a completely different story. First, white rice. There's a lot of it, and it's often seasoned with sweet vinegar. Those are fast carbohydrates. Second, the filling. Cream cheese Philadelphia is fat. Various sauces, especially spicy, are mayonnaise. The batter in which warm rolls are fried is more fat and carbohydrates. Toppings of cheese, fish roe. In the end, one such fancy roll can be as high in calories as a small burger. And the soy sauce we dip everything in is a sodium bomb. So a set of rolls is often a calorie-dense, fatty, and salty lunch that has simply disguised itself as healthy food. Fact 36. You need to take vitamins for prevention. In spring, for vitamin deficiency. In autumn, for immunity. It seems logical to support the body. But it's like shooting a cannon at sparrows and doing it with your eyes closed. Taking multivitamin complexes just in case is meaningless for most people and can sometimes even be harmful. First, we get almost all necessary nutrients from a balanced diet. Second, vitamins in one tablet can hinder each other's absorption. Third, and most importantly, an excess of certain vitamins, especially fat-soluble ones, A, D, hypervitaminosis can be more dangerous than vitamin deficiency. Vitamins are not candies. They are medications that should be taken based on indications. That is, after tests, everything else is just a way to make your urine very expensive. Fact 37. Potatoes are a harmful and empty product. They are demonized almost as much as white bread. Starch, high glycemic index, empty calories. But that's unfair. It all depends on the cooking method. French fries, fried in a liter of oil, or chips. However, a baked potato with its skin, or boiled potato, is a completely different product. It is rich in potassium, which is good for the heart, and vitamin C. If eaten cold, some of the starch turns into what is called resistant starch, which isn't absorbed but serves as food for the beneficial bacteria in our intestines, acting as a prebiotic. So potatoes are not an enemy, but just a vegetable with a tarnished reputation. The key is to prepare them correctly. Fact 38. To lose weight, you need to completely give up sweets. Forever. This prohibition is the foundation of many diets. But psychology is a stubborn thing. The stricter the prohibition, the stronger the desire to break it. Complete abandonment of favorite foods often leads to breakdowns and subsequent overeating with feelings of guilt. A much healthier and effective strategy is to control rather than prohibit. There's nothing wrong with eating a piece of chocolate or a cookie if it fits into your daily calorie allowance. The problem is not in sugar itself, but a complete ban turns food into an enemy and a source of stress. Moderate consumption allows you to enjoy life while still achieving your goals. It's not about weakness. It's about common sense and sustainable results. Fact 39. To build muscle, you need to eat a lot of protein. Eat chicken breast, wash it down with protein is the mantra of all novice bodybuilders. Protein is indeed the building material for muscles. But an excess of it won't turn you into the Hulk. The body can only absorb a certain amount of protein at a time, about 20 to 30 grams. Anything consumed beyond that won't go to the muscles. Part will be used as an energy source, essentially like carbohydrates, and the excess will create an additional load on the kidneys and liver, which must process. For muscle growth, a calorie surplus and adequate strength training are much more important than tons of protein. Without the stimulus of workouts, muscles will not grow, no matter how much protein you consume. This label can be seen even on bottles of sunflower oil or packages of oatmeal. It's a pure marketing trick, playing on consumers' fears. The fact is that cholesterol is a substance found exclusively in animal products. It doesn't exist in plant foods by definition. Writing cholesterol-free on sunflower oil is like saying alcohol-free on a baby food package, or plutonium-free on apples. It's true, but it's a meaningless truth that simply creates the illusion of some special benefit of the product compared to competitors who forgot to mention it. It's just smoke and mirrors aimed at the inattentive and trusting consumer. Fact 41. Black bread is inherently healthier than white bread. It's in our blood, part of our cultural code. A white loaf is for indulgence, while serious, proper bread should be dark, like the soul of a tax inspector. But, as you may have guessed, we've been duped again. Go to a store and look at the ingredients of most Borodinsky and rye breads. Often, the first ingredient is high-grade wheat flour, the same as in white bread. And the dark color comes not from healthy rye flour, but from common dye, burnt sugar, also known as caramel. That means you're buying dyed white bread thinking you're eating something dietary. Real whole grain or rye bread should list rye flour or whole grain as the first ingredient. Everything else is just masquerade, an attempt for a loaf to pass as an intellectual by simply wearing non-prescription glasses. Fact 42. Milk is necessary for adults for strong bones, calcium and all that. Advertising from the 90s drilled into our heads that without milk, our bones would turn to dust. But it's a bit more complicated than that. First, for a significant portion of the adult population, the production of the enzyme lactase, needed to digest lactose, this leads to bloating and other unpleasant issues. Secondly, calcium is not found only in milk. It's abundant in sesame, sardines, almonds, cabbage, and greens. And it is absorbed just as well from there. Moreover, for bone health, the presence of vitamin D, which helps calcium absorption, and regular physical activity are much more important than the amount of calcium consumed. So the notion that an adult must drink milk to avoid falling apart is a seriously outdated myth, primarily beneficial to the dairy industry. Fact 43. Food cooked on a grill is always healthy food. Summer, country house, barbecue. It seems to be the epitome of proper nutrition. Fat drips down, no oil. But within this smoky pleasure lies a hidden threat. That appetizing black crust, those charred bits on the meat. Not only do they taste good, when cooked over an open flame at high temperatures, carcinogenic substances are formed, particularly heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. It sounds scary, and indeed, it is. This doesn't mean you'll die from one kebab, but eating meat that's been charred regularly increases your risks. The solution? Marinate the meat. The marinade reduces the formation of these substances. Cook over moderate heat and ruthlessly cut off all the burnt pieces. Grilling is like the sun. In moderation, it's beneficial, but if you overdo it, you can encounter serious problems. Fact 44. Granola is the perfect healthy breakfast. An Instagram picture. A beautiful bowl with yogurt, fresh berries, and a handful of appetizing golden granola. It looks like a 100% healthy choice. Now let's look behind the scenes. Granola consists of oats, but to become so crispy and tasty, they are baked with a huge amount of sugar, or honey, or syrup, which is essentially the same. As a result, you get an incredibly calorie-dense product. A small serving of granola can contain more sugar and fat than a piece of cake or a chocolate bar. Essentially, it's not a healthy breakfast, but a dessert that successfully pretends to be healthy food. It's crumbled up oatmeal cookies sold to you as a fitness product. A perfect scam based on our ideas of wellness. Fact 45. Spicy food causes stomach ulcers. This myth is a classic. Don't eat chili, you'll burn everything inside. But science has long vindicated the lovers of spice. In the overwhelming majority of cases, stomach ulcers are caused not by or by prolonged use of certain medications, such as aspirin. Spicy food alone cannot burn a hole in a healthy stomach. What it can do is cause discomfort and exacerbate symptoms if an ulcer already exists. So, it's not the cause. It's like shouting at a person with a migraine. The shout didn't cause their illness, but made the symptoms unbearable. For a healthy stomach, a moderate amount of capsaicin, the substance that makes peppers hot, can even be beneficial. So you can safely add Tabasco to. Fact 46. Vitamin water is healthier than soda. What brilliant marketing. Simply brilliant. They took two words associated with health. Let's be honest. In a bottle of this vitamin water, there are 5 to 8 teaspoons of sugar. That's almost like a can of soda. All those added vitamins are cheap synthetic forms, just dumped in there to justify the name and the price. Essentially, you're drinking regular lemonade, but with an inflated self-esteem. It's like buying a Zhiguli, putting a Mercedes badge on it, and sincerely believing it's now premium class. Don't be fooled. If you want vitamins, eat an apple. If you want a drink, have plain water. Fact 47. You shouldn't drink water during meals because it dilutes stomach acid. Another myth from the series Folk Dietology. It sounds pseudoscientific and therefore convincing. But our stomach is not a school test tube. It is a powerful system capable of self-regulation. First, to significantly change the acidity in the stomach, you would have to drink several liters of water in one go. A glass of water simply can't do that. Second, if the stomach senses that acidity has dropped, it will just release an extra portion of hydrochloric acid. It is programmed to do so. Moreover, water helps soften food and improve the digestion process. So drinking during meals is not harmful and often even beneficial. This myth has absolutely no scientific basis. Fact 48. Organic products are always better. We've already said that organic doesn't mean pesticide-free. And now another nuance. Imagine 2 tomatoes. One is organic, but it was brought to us from Turkey or Egypt. It was picked green, traveled for days in a truck, ripening in darkness, losing vitamins, and accumulating a carbon footprint. The second tomato is not organic. It was grown by a grandmother in a neighboring village. She may have sprinkled it with some standard chemicals against pests, but she picked it ripe and red just yesterday. Which of these tomatoes will be tastier, fresher, and perhaps even healthier? The answer is obvious. Sometimes the label local or seasonal is much more important than the coveted word organic. Don't chase trends, chase freshness. Fact 49. The more expensive the product, the healthier it is. This is a purely psychological trap that we all fall into. We see an exotic juice from acai berries on the shelf for 700 rubles, and next to it is a regular tomato juice for 70. Our brains automatically complete the picture. Since it's so expensive, it must be the elixir of eternal youth. This is a cognitive distortion. Marketers know well that a high price creates a halo of health around a product. But the truth is that our humble and inexpensive buckwheat exceeds the nutritional value of expensive quinoa. Regular sauerkraut is more of a superfood than any imported supplement, and simple lentils can outperform any trendy plant protein. Don't let the price tag decide for you what is healthy. Often, the most valuable products are the most modest and affordable. Fact 50. There are good and bad foods. This is perhaps the most important and harmful myth of all. It divides the entire world of food. This dichotomy creates feelings of guilt, eating disorders, and unhealthy relationships with food. But the truth is that there are no bad foods. There are bad diets. There is no poison, only dosage. A slice of cake on your birthday is not evil, it's a joy. But living on nothing but cake is a path to problems. A plate of broccoli is not a ticket to paradise. It's just one element of a balanced diet. What matters is not the individual product, but the overall picture of your diet, its variety and moderation. Stop demonizing food. It's just food, your fuel and your pleasure. That's how it is. We have uncovered 50 little lies that sustain the giant food industry. The goal was not for you to fear every bite, but to become a bit smarter and more cynical. Next time you're in the store, look not at the pretty label, but at the fine print with the ingredients. Don't believe the loud claims of fitness and detox, but trust common sense. This was Max with you. Think with your head and eat wisely. Goodbye.